Revealed, my son's heartbreaking message sparked an unexpected call that transformed everything. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above Lisa as she hurried through the hospital's bustling corridor, the sterile scent of antiseptic clinging to her scrubs. Just another long shift in the small Midwestern town where she juggled her dual role, a dedicated nurse and an exhausted single mother. She was used to the strain, but tonight something felt different. Glancing at her phone, she felt her heart stop when a message from Jamie illuminated the screen. "Mom, I don't think I'm good enough for anything." A weight crushed her chest. The words crashed into her like a freight train, splintering the world she'd meticulously built. Jamie was bright, surpassing his peers academically, yet here he was, grappling with an invisible burden heavier than she could ever imagine. How could he feel this way? She didn't think he even knew the ins and outs of their financial struggles, the way they counted pennies and dodged bills. Panic rushed in, mixing with guilt as she reflected on the relentless hours spent at the hospital, exchanging time with him for stability. Were her sacrifices in vain? In that moment, she felt the sharp sting of inadequacy, a reminder of the obstacles she faced. The humdrum of life moved around her, but all she could hear was her son's despairing words echoing in the cold silence of the hospital aisle. He was only 12, but already wrestling with self-doubt, compounded by classmates' whispers and her own limited resources looming over them. Nausea twisted in her stomach. Had she unknowingly cast a shadow over his childhood? Before she could drown in her thoughts, her phone buzzed again. A call, an unexpected name flashing on the screen. Her estranged uncle, the one who left after the family fell apart years ago. His sudden reappearance was almost a bizarre coincidence, or perhaps destiny? Lisa's heart raced as she hesitated. The mix of emotions swirled inside her like a cyclone. What could he want? Just as tension escalated, her focus snapped back to the phone. Accepting financial support would mean wrestling with her childhood values of pride and independence, which had been painstakingly ingrained in her. An independence she fought for, tooth and nail, contrasted sharply with the thought of seeking help she desperately needed for her son's future. She clenched her jaw, bracing herself. As his voice crackled through the receiver, offering assistance for Jamie's education, it felt like walking the tightrope between her past and what could be a better tomorrow. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each word felt like a knife twisting in her gut. Could she reconcile her desire for more for Jamie with the possibility of reopening age-old wounds? The gnawing uncertainty intensified her internal struggle. As she searched for solace in their home, secrets unceremoniously came flooding back. Memories of betrayal, anger, and the pain of past family rifts began to resurface, crashing against her sense of self. Would dollars equate to a healed relationship, or merely a cascade of memories better left buried? Lisa prepared for the inevitable truth-telling, the meeting looming ahead with her uncle, brewing emotional storms she was hardly ready for. The stakes escalated. Every decision weighed heavy on her choices, echoing a question louder each moment. Could accepting this form of help shield her son from the turmoil she'd endured? Would forging ties with him only draw her deeper into the abyss of her childhood? Just as doubt settled in, her phone rang again, and she lifted it slowly to her ear, ready for an answer. Lisa hesitated, the receiver pressing against her ear as her pulse thundered in her chest. The familiar yet distant voice of her uncle cut through the anxious anticipation that enveloped her. He sounded older, wearier, a stark contrast to the man she once idolized. Their estrangement had been etched in time, and yet here he was, attempting to bridge a chasm long abandoned. "Lisa, I've been thinking a lot about the past, about Jamie." His words stirred a whirlwind of emotions within her. How could he think he had a place in Jamie's life? Memories of family gatherings, now caricatures of discomfort, flooded her mind, a reminder of why distance had become their refuge. "Do you really think you're the one to help?" she questioned, her voice steadier than she felt. "Lisa, I know I hurt you all, but I've changed. Jamie deserves better than to struggle like you did," he replied, his tone sincere yet battling against years of familial scars. Lisa felt the tension constrict her throat. The idea of allowing her uncle into their lives had never crossed her mind. It felt like a betrayal to the principles she upheld. Yet she could not ignore the flicker of hope his words ignited, the potential for Jamie to have support beyond her. "Why now?" she countered, a mixture of skepticism and curiosity threading through her inquiry. "You've been absent for so long." "I had my demons, Lisa. I'm trying to atone. Jamie reminds me of you. He's brilliant, full of promise. I want to help him see that." As she listened, she felt a shift inside herself. Perhaps her journey had been rooted in the belief that resilience was a solitary battle. Could she risk dismantling that facade and exposing herself to vulnerability by welcoming her uncle back? Suddenly, she was confronted with a dual challenge: her desire to protect Jamie from her flawed heritage and the possibility that in opening up, she could offer him a different kind of strength. "Just think about it, Lisa. You won't have to do everything alone," he urged, and the sincerity resonated despite the storm of memories swirling around her heart. Later that night, as she lay in bed, she replayed the conversation, casting it against the backdrop of her life. Jamie's message haunted her, his self-doubt throwing shadows over the dreams they both shared. Was she doing enough to support him, to help him forge his identity against the encroaching tide of skepticism? She realized then that perhaps it wasn't only about her. Maybe it was also about Jamie recognizing that support could come in unexpected forms. The next day, the sun rose with relentless brightness, illuminating her resolve. What if her uncle could offer Jamie mentorship while she maintained her independence? It wasn't a trade-off. It was a chance for growth for both of them. With newfound determination, Lisa decided she was ready to confront her past and potentially reframe her familial narrative. She would invite her uncle into their lives, but on her terms. This was not an abandonment of her pride. It was a strategic choice grounded in love and responsibility. Sitting down to pen her thoughts, she felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with trepidation. Each word carried the weight of her decision. She would reach out. But as she prepared to send the message, her phone buzzed with an alert, an unknown number. Heart racing, she thought it must be her uncle seeking confirmation of their tentative new beginning. But when she answered, the voice on the other end introduced a stark new element to the conversation, one that would challenge everything she thought she had arranged. "Miss Lisa, I have important news regarding Jamie's school." Her breath caught in her throat as she braced herself for what lay ahead, uncertain whether this would be a plunge or a lifeline. What could possibly be waiting behind this revelation? "Miss Lisa, I have important news regarding Jamie's school." The voice echoed through the line, crisp yet laden with an undercurrent of urgency. Lisa stiffened, gripping the phone tighter. The tension in her chest morphed into icy anxiety, an unfamiliar feeling that threatened to sever her newfound determination to reach out to her uncle. "What kind of news?" she asked, her voice steady so as not to reveal the tempest brewing inside her. She had spent sleepless nights thinking about Jamie's struggles at school, but this call felt like a pivotal moment, one that could unearth hidden fears or open new doors. There was a brief pause, the silence stretched. "Jamie has been struggling academically, and we feel that he may benefit from additional support. We believe this could also have significant emotional benefits." Lisa felt her pulse quicken. The words darted through her like shrapnel, slicing through her resolve. She had hoped for a reprieve from the battles they'd faced, a chance to give Jamie the support he needed. But what did it mean that the school was involved? Was she doing enough? The suffocating pressure of parental responsibility clawed at her mind, battling the memory of her own unresolved issues. Is it behavioral, or is he just falling behind? She pressed, now desperately craving clarity. Both. We recommend considering a tutor with experience in working with students who share similar challenges, and perhaps we can discuss the possibility of additional counseling options. A rush of guilt rolled through her. If only she had seen the signs earlier. Was it complacency that allowed Jamie to drift into a state where help was now necessary? Each moment spent doubting herself inherently belittled her love for him, forcing her into a corner of self-reproach. The weight of their collective history pressed upon her, but layered with that weight was her instinct to shield Jamie from the chaos of their past. "Thank you for the information," she managed to choke out before the call ended, her mind racing through a labyrinth of possibilities. There it was, the door swinging wide open, inviting her to confront her past, her uncle, and unveil a new strategy of support for Jamie. She needed clarity, a plan to support him, rather than let him drift helplessly in the currents of self-doubt like she once had. That evening, she sat at the dining room table, cluttered with old school projects and unopened mail. Jamie's bright, hopeful artwork seemed to mock her doubts. As she reached for her laptop to research tutoring services, her thoughts wandered back to her conversation with her uncle. Perhaps he could be part of this new chapter, a mentor in more than just name. But there was an unsettling friction coursing through her mind, a profound moral dilemma. Did infusing her uncle into their lives mean setting Jamie up for more tumult? The vision of him nurturing Jamie reminded her of the estrangements buried in their past. Yet, could this indeed help Jamie embrace his identity with someone who had traversed familiar battles? Lisa grabbed a pen, scribbled down questions rattling around in her head, each one an attempt to dissect the consequences of this decision. What if he betrayed their trust again? What if the scars of their shared history overshadowed any mentor-like support? The uncertainty was palpable, each query refusing to stay silent. She made a list of qualities she wanted in a tutor, someone experienced, patient, and empathetic, traits that resonated deeply with Jamie's character. Her uncle could provide wisdom, someone standing in the gap where she had faltered. As she closed her laptop for the night, Lisa felt the upheaval of emotions settle into a more resolute tone. In confronting her fears about Jamie's support, she found potential. The next call she made wouldn't just be to follow up on tutors, it would be to open the conversation with her uncle, laying the groundwork for an unexpected alliance born from vulnerability. The future was shrouded in uncertainty, yet as she braced herself for the forthcoming dialogue with her uncle, a new determination rose within her. The time had come for a full-circle moment of honesty, one that straddled her commitment to Jamie's growth and her own reclaiming of familial trust. With that thought, she revised her plan, readying herself for the next leap as the prospect of a response from her uncle loomed. But would he understand the gravity of what lay ahead? Would her willingness to risk vulnerability open new doors, or shut them firmly in her face? The next morning, dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the cluttered table, a lingering reminder of the decisions Lisa needed to engage with. Each item on the table, old mail, Jamie's art, seemed to represent fragments of her past, remnants of choices that led to the moment she faced now. Gathering her thoughts felt daunting, but she knew it was time to act. With her laptop open before her, she was surrounded by a sea of research on tutors. The clicking of the keyboard felt methodical, almost monumental. She discovered promising candidates, educators known for their patience and understanding of students struggling with emotional and academic challenges. The prospect of enriching Jamie's life sparked a flicker of hope that began driving out the shadows of self-doubt. But the thought of her uncle loomed larger, refusing to be ignored. A single message from him could disrupt the delicate balance she sought to establish. She hadn't spoken to him in years. The wounds from their past were buried but not forgotten. The idea of him contributing positively to Jamie's growth seemed fantastical, but it was precisely that flicker of potential that ignited a deeper resolve within her. She visualized the conversation with her uncle, could imagine his concern and skepticism. Would he see this as an invitation to meddle? Yet what if he saw the earnestness in her heart, a mother reaching for help amid a battle she felt ill-equipped to fight alone? With renewed urgency, Lisa picked up her phone, her fingers hovering above the screen. Should she initiate text or call? Ultimately, if she was to pave a new path for Jamie, it needed to be a call, direct, real. As she pressed the dial, her breath hitched. Memories cascaded through her mind, highlighting every moment where her uncle's decisions had led to fracture and betrayal in the family. It was painful, but she had to recognize that history need not dictate tomorrow. Hello? The voice on the other end was familiar yet distant, a tide of warmth smothered by time. Lisa's heart raced. "Hi, it's Lisa," she said, maintaining her composure despite the quaking in her stomach. "No turning back now. I hope you're well." After an exchange of pleasantries, she hesitated. This was the moment for honesty, for harvesting courage buried under layers of fear. "I'm calling because I need your help with Jamie. He's struggling at school, and I think he could benefit from support." There was a long pause. The air was thick with unspoken words hanging heavy between them. Finally, he replied, "I'm surprised you reached out. I'd like to help, but I think we need to talk through this." Lisa felt both relief and dread. His willingness to communicate was a potential door flung open, yet the looming conversation about the complexities of their shared past felt intimidating. What if he brought up old grievances? As they began to discuss Jamie, she noticed something in his tone, a willingness to understand, to support, that perhaps stemmed from their shared experience of familial chaos. It was subtle, yet she couldn't dismiss it. Could this provide Jamie the guidance he needed? The question echoed within her as they moved toward the specifics of his involvement, a discussion that began to unfold into what felt like a partnership, albeit tentative. "I can help with tutoring, but I need to know you're committed to this too. Jamie deserves consistency and support," he stated, his voice steady but probing. Her mind raced. This was more than tutoring. It was about healing, a chance to rebuild trust, redefine relationships, and provide Jamie with a safe place to anchor his identity. Yet, would this alliance hold against the storms of their history? "Of course, I want to do whatever it takes," she replied, her determination gleaming through the uncertainty. As they wrapped up the call, Lisa felt an undercurrent of resolve solidifying inside her. She was finding her footing, paving a path for Jamie while addressing the fractures in her own life. The complexity of her emotions swirled, a mix of hope and trepidation. Instead of pushing the past away, she realized she had to face it directly. The next steps required both her and her uncle to navigate the waters carefully. But where would this newfound alliance lead them? Could they transcend the chaos and craft a nurturing environment for Jamie? With one foot in uncertain territory, Lisa made a mental note of the principles she'd want to hold dear: clarity, respect, and accountability. The road ahead was unwritten, but in her heart, a flicker of optimism began to glow ever brighter. Yet the feeling nagged at her. Would the risks of vulnerability outweigh the potential for bonding? Would the shadows of their past threaten to ensnare her resolve? The anticipation of that confrontation loomed large. The following days unfolded slowly, bringing with them a mixture of dread and determination. Lisa was deeply aware of the gravity of the crossroads she stood upon. Every decision carried the weight of generations. She remained committed to nurturing Jamie's development, but she couldn't fully ignore the turbulence of reopening old wounds with her uncle. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, spilling warmth over the table where she had initially dared to outline her plan for Jamie. Today it felt both more tangible and more fragile. She gazed at the laptop screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, hesitating as she considered the next steps. Protectiveness over Jamie tightened in her chest, pushing her to commit fully to this new journey. With trepidation, she opened a new window for email outreach to the prospective tutors she had found earlier. She lambasted herself internally for the hesitation to reach out. How could she expect to build a strong foundation for Jamie without first establishing connections with those who could help? This was a clear moment of growth, one that challenged the insecurities she had often allowed to define her. Typing took on a rhythm, and with each message sent, she felt a slight release, a lightening of the burden she carried. In her mind, she conjured visions of Jamie thriving with proper guidance, a boy who would shed the shadows of his past and embrace the brilliance she knew was there. However, her resolve fluctuated as memories of her uncle's past interventions flickered through her mind. Hadn't he once been the hero who promised guidance but left devastation in his wake? Each decision made against the tides of his influence now required a fierce authenticity. Lisa committed to reminding herself that cooperating didn't entail abandoning her principles. By midday, she had yet to hear back from the tutors, but the lingering apprehension about her uncle intensified. The conversation they had shared knitted together some strands of possibility, yet it was still marred by unresolved resentments. She remembered their last encounter, a fight filled with harsh words and accusations. The emotional upheaval leading to their estrangement became a wall that loomed tall. Feeling restless, Lisa grabbed a notebook and penned down her thoughts, creating a dialogue that existed purely for her. What could she articulate to maintain clarity with her uncle? What boundaries needed delineation to safeguard Jamie while still embracing his involvement? Each stroke of the pen felt like chiseling stone, the formations of thoughts sturdy and deliberate. As the afternoon melted into evening, the phone rang. Her uncle's name glimmered on the screen. Panic clawed at her throat. This was the moment. Taking a breath to steady herself, she answered. "Hi," she said, steeling herself against the imminent onslaught of emotions. "Hey, Lisa, I wanted to check how the tutoring arrangements are going," he said, and she could hear the genuine curiosity layered under the formality in his voice. She chose her words carefully. "I've reached out to a few tutors, and I feel hopeful." As they continued their discussion, she began injecting elements of her plan for Jamie, the nurturing environment she envisioned. The conversation morphed into a dance of mutual insights and expectations. Surprisingly, each exchange seemed more constructive than she had anticipated. Yet with each moment of comfort came the nagging voice in her head that questioned whether they could truly rewrite the narrative of their shared history. What if this partnership unraveled amid the complexities they hadn't yet confronted? By the time they wrapped up, there was a tentative understanding hanging in the air. "Let's revisit this soon," he said, an encouraging tone layering uncertainty with possibilities. As she ended the call, Lisa wrestled with conflicting emotions. The connections spiraled into new territory, an uncharted realm of vulnerability, but filled with the potential for reconciliation. Moment by moment, she was carving out not just a better life for Jamie, but also redefining her relationship with her uncle, navigating the rough waters with a steadier hand. She caught a glimpse of Jamie's artwork draped across the fridge, a wild swirl of colors that evoked joy and confusion simultaneously. "This is for us," she murmured, determination coloring her voice. Healing, she realized, demanded courage and perseverance. But as she looked at that messy, vibrant art, a thought slithered into her mind. How deeply had Jamie sensed the struggles woven into their family tapestry? She could only hope that he wouldn't be the sole casualty in this endeavor to reshape his life. The stakes elevated, Lisa felt an urgency coiling within her. If Jamie needed to understand the strength of vulnerability, had she prepared herself to confront the truths that loomed over them? Would she uncover layers of understanding that put her at odds with her very essence? The next dawn might bring clarity, or it might unearth conflicts that would splinter her aspirations further. As Lisa held on to that lingering discomfort, the question kept echoing in her mind. Would they uncover the strength to confront their shared past and create a future unscathed by its shadows? The next morning, an unsettling wave of anxiety accompanied Lisa as she prepared breakfast. Each movement, from stirring the oatmeal to pouring orange juice, felt mechanized, as though she was fulfilling a role while her mind wrestled with the implications of the conversation with her uncle. Despite the flicker of hope they had cultivated, uncertainty clung to her like the steam rising from the pot. Jamie wandered into the kitchen wearing his favorite superhero pajamas, his face lit up with the innocence of childhood, an expression that momentarily muted her inner turmoil. "Good morning, Mom!" His voice rang out, and she felt a pang of duty surge through her. In that moment, everything hinged upon her ability to guide him through his own battles, to equip him with the tools needed to thrive, rather than merely survive. "Morning, champ. What do you want for breakfast?" she asked, pushing aside the complex layers that threatened her peace. Somehow, she needed to be present right now. Jamie didn't deserve to be mired in her anxieties. "Pancakes!" he exclaimed, his hands clapping enthusiastically. As she flipped pancakes and watched Jamie's cheerful anticipation, a notion sparked in her mind. He was so full of potential, and yet, even now, he was absorbing tension like a sponge. What could she do differently this time? The realization dawned on her that nurturing him also required tackling her own fears. She needed to model vulnerability and resilience, balancing both in equal measure. With each pancake stacked higher on the plate, a plan began to unfurl. Maybe it was time to share some of her thoughts with Jamie, on different stages of growth, on the power of creating one's path and the significance of healthy relationships. If she could weave together her struggles with her uncle alongside her plans for Jamie's future, perhaps she could help him reflect on his own experiences meaningfully. After breakfast, Lisa sat with Jamie at the kitchen table, set up art supplies before them. "Let's create something together," she suggested, aware of the therapeutic potential of art in both their lives. As they began to paint, she felt a sense of shared expression blooming. Color intermingled with laughter, and she slowly worked the key issue into their discussions. "You know, sometimes family can be complicated," Lisa ventured, gauging Jamie's reaction. "Like when Uncle Mark and I argue. But even when things are hard, it's important to talk about them." Jamie looked up from his canvas, the paintbrush poised midair. "But why do you argue?" The innocence in his question struck her deeply. She hesitated, reconsidering how much to disclose while avoiding burdening him. "People sometimes get hurt and say things they don't mean, but we can always work to understand one another better." "I don't want to fight," he replied simply, a note of sincerity filling the space. "No, me either," she reassured, her heart warming to the moment. "And it takes practice to navigate those feelings, just like art. You start with an idea, but the end becomes something beautiful regardless of mistakes." Jamie picked up more colors, flushing vibrant strokes onto the paper. There was an energy of healing in their interaction, and Lisa realized that the precedents set in this moment would shape more than just their day. It would reverberate into Jamie's future. As they painted, she found herself contemplating the upcoming meeting with her uncle, a critical moment that might drudge up old resentments but could also redefine their future. Could she channel the courage displayed in their artistic endeavor into that conversation? In the midst of the colors, a notification pinged from her phone. A response from a potential tutor arrived, filled with promising details that suggested hope. Yet within her, conflicting emotions simmered, pushing her to confront not just the possibility of new beginnings with Jamie, but also the shadows of her past. The day wore on, oscillating between the clarity of plans and the Yoda-like wisps of doubt lingering unacknowledged. Just as she finished a final brushstroke on her canvas, a thought surged forward. If she chose to confront the ghosts of the past, exposure might grant her and Jamie that elusive bond of understanding. With the realization settling in, the stakes had never felt higher. Would she find the bravery required for crafting open communication with her uncle? More importantly, could she rise above the fears gnawing at her as she ventured into this uncharted emotional territory? Before she could frame her thoughts further, Jamie called out excitedly about his artwork. Lisa glanced over and smiled, yet she couldn't ignore the stirring fear reminding her of the confrontation ahead. "Mom," he shouted, breaking her train of thought. "What's next?" In that moment, with the vibrant colors around them embodying both their struggles and victories, a single question loomed large. Would she be able to forge a path to understanding, not just for Jamie, but for her family as a whole? The answer awaited her on the horizon as the shadows of her past grew ever closer. Lisa sat at the table, the remnants of their painting session now just dried strokes of vibrant color on paper. Yet as Jamie excitedly recounted his vision for the next artwork, her mind was elsewhere, twisted in thoughts around her uncle and the daunting heart-to-heart looming before her. "Mom, look at this," Jamie chirped, interrupting her thoughts. He gestured proudly to his latest masterpiece, a whirlwind of colors that felt chaotic yet mesmerizing. "It's a superhero." Lisa forced a smile, feigning enthusiasm. "Wow, that's amazing, buddy. You're so talented." But deep inside, a whisper gnawed at her. Could she continue to balance this veneer with the intense turbulence she felt within? After their colorful session, Lisa tidied up the art supplies, feeling the weight of the undisclosed emotions flitting around her. She had an hour before meeting her uncle, a mere 60 minutes that felt like an eternity. How could she drive her anxiety away? Seeking solace, she brewed a cup of calming chamomile tea, hoping that warmth would wrap around her like a soft embrace. As she sipped, her phone buzzed again. Against her better judgment, she glanced at it, fully expecting another notification. Instead, it was a video message from her sister, Sarah, who lived in another state. With an unexpected jolt, she pressed play, eager for a distraction. "Hey, Lisa, I just wanted to check in on you. You all right?" Sarah started, her bright smile uncharacteristically dimmed by a note of concern. "I know things have been tough with Uncle Mark lately. Just remember, you're not alone in this." Lisa's heart squeezed. Sarah had always been her anchor in the family storm, yet the weight of her words served as a reminder that Lisa had been avoiding confrontation. Uncertain if she was ready, she fidgeted with the teacup, letting the steam curl around her face, then inhaled deeply. "Mom," Jamie yelled from the living room, "can we have ice cream for dinner?" The question, innocent yet laden with the core of her responsibilities tugging at her heart, broke the spell momentarily. "Ice cream, huh? I think we might be breaking some rules, but it's been a good day, hasn't it?" she yelled back, gathering a semblance of normalcy. Lisa searched for grounding and humor as she moved through the kitchen, trying to embrace the lightheartedness of Jamie's idea. But internally, her spirits darkened as the clock ticked closer to the hour. The familiar feeling of wading through murky waters returned. Despite the playful distractions, she was grappling with a singular certainty. The conversation with Uncle Mark was inevitable. She could no longer skirt around it. As she allowed an ice cream-filled distraction to settle in, a shocking thought suddenly pierced her haze of indecision. Perhaps all those years of avoiding authentic conversations weren't just taken from her, but had also impacted her family's strength. Perhaps by embracing vulnerability, they could grow stronger together. Each scoop of ice cream dished out became a small metaphor for the truths she would unwrap later that day. Could she articulate her fears, not only to her uncle, but also to Jamie, in a way that they could both learn and grow? "Hey, buddy, let's draw something right now," she proposed, diving into a new idea. Art had served as a bridge, and maybe it was time to use this medium to express the questions swirling in her mind. As they sketched together, she planned the words she might say later. Would they help both her and her uncle? Abandoning the pretense that everything was fine, she asked Jamie, "What do you think families should do when they don't agree?" He paused, swirling another scoop into a whirlwind of mess and possibility. "They should talk about it," he declared. Childlike wisdom spilled forth, twinkling in his bright eyes. "Exactly," Lisa nodded, affirming his instinct. Only it could be that simple. The final scoop was both a momentous culmination and a prelude to a storm, one that could very well reshape her family's legacy. As the question echoed in her mind, she felt a renewed resolve surge forth. Was she ready to face the messiness of the past? The clock's reminder came in the form of faint chimes from the nearby church tower announcing the hour. Lisa straightened, her heart racing. It was time. As she wiped the remnants of ice cream from her hands, the sense of immediacy pushed her toward the door. Maybe this was her moment of truth. The discomfort and anxiety that accompanied speaking her truths could very well reshape the relationship she shared with her uncle and the world Jamie would inherit. Would confronting her past break the chains binding her family, or would it shatter them beyond repair? Outside, shadows stretched long across the yard, echoing the weight of her apprehensions. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The haunting question lingered. Could she truly brave the churning waters ahead and reach the other side? The answer awaited, lurking just beyond the doorstep. As Lisa stepped out into the cool evening air, she felt a torrent of emotions surge within her. The lines of the path were blurred beneath the dimming light, much like her resolve. Each strained step toward her uncle's house felt like a leap into the unknown, a confrontation with shadows that had haunted her family for far too long. The walk was meant to clear her mind, but with every stride came a flood of memories. Each encounter with Uncle Mark rippled through her consciousness, bringing to light the long conversations that had slipped beneath the surface of their familial bonds. The last time they had talked openly, before the unspoken rift had widened, Lisa was still a child, basking in the safety of naivety. Caught in the ebb and flow of these recollections, Lisa's pulse quickened. She chastised herself for allowing fear to grip her, yet the weight of her intentions pressed on her chest like an anchor. Was she ready to usher in a new chapter of honesty, one that could alter the course of their relationship forever? Just as she was lost in this internal struggle, the familiar silhouette of Uncle Mark's house emerged from the shadows. The warm glow from the windows beckoned her, yet it shrouded her in apprehension. She paused at the gate, inhaling deeply, attempting to summon the courage she so desperately needed. The door swung open before she had a chance to knock, and Uncle Mark appeared, his brow furrowed with concern. "Lisa, I was just about to call you. Come in." His invitation was warm, but held an underlying tension that resonated in the air between them. Once inside, the familiar aroma of brewed coffee filled her senses, but it did little to calm her nerves. Sitting across from him felt akin to being on the edge of a cliff, both exhilarating and terrifying. After a moment of polite small talk, silence enveloped them, its weight thick and suffocating. The familiar creaking of wood and the ticking of the clock punctuated the stillness, each sound amplifying her anxiety. "Lisa?" Uncle Mark finally broke the silence, concern etched across his features. "I can't help but feel that something's bothering you." Deep breaths. This was the moment she'd been preparing for. Before she could second-guess herself, she leaned forward, her voice steady yet fluid. "I've been thinking about us, about our family. I realize I haven't been honest with you, or with myself, about how I feel." His eyes widened slightly, almost retracting instinctually from her words. "I know it's been hard." "Hard?" The words shot from her mouth like a pebble cast into a lake. "It's been crippling. We've avoided each other, Mark. I want to know why. We can't keep acting like everything is fine." Uncle Mark shifted in his chair, an expression of surprise mingling with an acknowledgement of truth. "I thought you might feel that way. I didn't want to bring it up either, Lisa. We've lost touch with each other, and I didn't know how to bridge that gap." Lisa felt a strange mix of relief and frustration wash over her. There was a shared understanding in his admission, yet she craved more than mere recognition. She needed to excavate the roots of their familial discord. "Why didn't you say something before?" She didn't want to sound accusatory, but the question slipped out before she could catch it. "I thought I was protecting you," he confessed, the heaviness of admission weighing down the air between them. "But I realize now that I've done more harm than good." A moment of silence followed where vulnerability hung thick. For the first time in years, Lisa felt the chance to reconnect. She studied his face, searching for signs of anger or regret, but instead found a reflection of her own anxiety. He was uncertain too. In that moment, an unexpected surge of bravery impulsively propelled her. "What if we tried to talk about the things we've avoided together?" Mark hesitated, pondering the magnitude of her proposal. "That could be difficult," he replied, the apprehension palpable. The gravity of the situation settled back around them, but Lisa felt a flicker of determination igniting her chest. "But necessary," she added firmly, "for us, for Jamie, for the future." Uncle Mark regarded her, the years of unspoken truths glimmering in his eyes. For the first time, Lisa realized that she was starting a dialogue not just with her uncle, but with herself, unlocking possibilities that she had buried for too long. As they began to uncover their burdens, she sensed tension evaporating, like mist kissed by the dawn's light. But there was still so much to address, old wounds still fresh, and revelations that would undoubtedly arise from this conversation. In the labyrinth of their discussion, fragmented memories of past disputes and misunderstandings began to surface like discarded paintings that begged for attention. The time had come for them to face not only their shared history, but the evolving narratives they had crafted apart. Just as the conversation turned deeper, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. Startled, both turned their heads. It was Jamie, who had been exploring the space, now wide-eyed and clutching an overturned vase, its pieces scattering across the floor. The distraction cut through the intensity, but Lisa knew that the moment had shifted. The dialogue had been initiated, yet there was so much more to unravel. They both stood on the precipice of change. Would they seize this break to solidify what they had started, or would lingering doubts send them spiraling back into avoidance? As she knelt to help Jamie gather the shards of porcelain, her mind raced with the possibilities of their emotional journey ahead. The nature of family, she thought, lay in their ability to break apart and seamlessly reassemble anew. But the question lingered. Would they embrace the rebuilding together, or would the cracks prove too daunting to mend? Lisa's heart thundered with anticipation and uncertainty as she gazed up at her son and then back to Uncle Mark. The path ahead was fraught with risk, and she braced for the conversations that awaited them both. Would healing take root in the soil of honesty, or would it remain forever buried beneath layers of unexpressed emotion? As Lisa knelt, carefully picking up the porcelain pieces, the shards glimmered under the kitchen light, sharp and unforgiving. A pivotal moment had been interrupted. Something within her ached to confront the silence that had lived too long between her and Uncle Mark. She glanced at Jamie, whose innocent curiosity seemed untouched by the weight of adult conversations. His presence was a tether, a reminder that this family needed healing, now more than ever. "Are you okay, buddy?" she asked gently, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. Jamie nodded, though his wide eyes still reflected a mixture of confusion and concern. She wanted to shield him from the turmoil, yet knew he could sense the tension in the air. "Just be careful next time, all right?" He smiled, then squatted beside her to help gather the pieces, and in that simple action, an unspoken sense of partnership blossomed. Lisa's resolve hardened. If Jamie was learning about consequences in the simplest of ways, crashing vessels and shattering illusions, then she needed to teach him how to mend, to confront the difficult truths that life inevitably threw their way. Mark joined in, picking up a larger shard. "Sorry about your vase, Lisa. I should have been watching him." His pain was palpable, a shared discomfort, but it held an unexpected power, an opening to further exploration of their underlying issues. "Perhaps this was a sign," Lisa ventured, her voice layered with the weight of their earlier conversation. "Maybe we need to start smaller, handle one piece at a time." The metaphor hovered in the air without needing further explanation. Mark's gaze softened. "You're right, we have a lot to unpack, but I'd like to try, for both of you." The sincerity in his words entwined with the urgency of the situation, a balm against the years of silence that had festered. Once the last shard was set aside, Lisa felt a surge of adrenaline. "Let's talk," she said, not wanting the moment to slip into the previous shadows. "Let me tell you how I really feel, not just about the family, but about everything." Lisa's questions spiraled in her mind, racing alongside the strokes of her crayon. The unfolding canvas awaited their next move, pregnant with possibilities. Hours turned into days, and what had once been merely a flicker of hope began to blaze brightly. The tentative alliance between Lisa and her uncle transformed into a deliberate commitment. Each moment spent talking, each shared laugh with Jamie, solidified the family bond that had long been strained, teetering on the brink of rupture. As Jamie settled into new routines, his tutor showing remarkable results, his laughter drowning out the echoes of old wounds, Lisa felt a profound and tangible transformation. The previous helplessness that had gripped her like a vice began to loosen its hold. With every tutoring session, Jamie sported a small victory, test results improving, confidence blooming. It was a reflection of not just Jamie's growth, but of Lisa's own journey towards self-acceptance and empowerment. Lisa found herself pushing past the discomfort of vulnerability with her uncle. The stories they shared, the laughter mingled with discussions of mistakes, revealed a newfound depth to their relationship. One evening, as they sat together reviewing Jamie's homework, Uncle Mark turned to her, sincerity etched across his features. "I think about how I could have been better. It just took reconnecting with you to realize how much I've missed." Her heart swelled with recognition. This was progress, a significant acknowledgement of their past that allowed her to bring the discussion full circle. It's not just the past we need to address, but how we can shape our future. Jamie deserves to see us working through our complications together. Their dialogue ensured that Jamie could witness the genuine attempt to reconcile and understand, setting a powerful precedent for what a family could evolve into amidst turmoil. The sense of connection fortified Lisa's resolve and tangibly transformed her mindset. She was no longer the jaded woman driven by exhaustion, but a determined mother and a daughter forging a path toward healing. With clarity taking root, Lisa stepped into a new professional phase as well. She began sharing her experiences in the form of support groups for mothers in crisis. Real-life encounters birthed fresh insights, and she leaned into the narrative of resilience she'd cultivated, appreciating the balancing act of strength and vulnerability. Conference meetings and community discussions became stages for her newfound voice, proving invaluable in her professional growth. One afternoon, after sharing her journey to a group of eager listeners, a woman approached her with tears glistening in her eyes. "I felt alone for so long. Hearing you made me realize I'm not. Thank you for sharing." The gratitude resonated within her long after they parted ways. This was acknowledgement, mutually fulfilling and deeply human. As the weeks passed, Jamie thrived under his uncle's mentorship, learning not only curriculum subjects, but essential life skills that blossomed from their relationship. One balmy Friday evening, as they celebrated Jamie acing his math test, Lisa caught a glimpse of who her son was becoming, confident and resilient. In his eyes, she saw determination, devoid of shadows from her past. That sense of gratification rippled through her, an unshakable feeling resonating in her core. With Jamie riding the highs of his achievements and her uncle merging seamlessly into their lives, Lisa's heart swelled with pride. She achieved what many deemed impossible, weaving a tapestry of trust and hope amidst an earlier backdrop of turmoil. The clarity of purpose defined her now, a woman who had conquered her fears and reinvented what it meant to seek help. In her mind, there was now vivid imagery of a family united, built on dialogues of honesty and determination. As she tucked Jamie into bed that night, their shared laughter echoing softly against the walls while she brushed her fingers through his hair, she realized just how far she had come. The shadows of inadequacy that once lingered, both hers and Jamie's, faded into the background, overshadowed by their collective growth and evolving narrative. In that moment, the path had not just wound toward hope, but toward a sustainable future, a future of open communication and unconditional support. Lisa felt an infectious joy bubble within her. She had achieved not merely family preservation, but a poignant transformation into the strength she always possessed, yet had hidden away. Addressing Jamie, she smiled softly and assured him, "Remember, buddy, we all have worth. You are good enough, just as you are." Through the gentle reminders and the ever-deepening bonds with her uncle, Lisa stood proud, recognizing the essence of this journey wasn't merely about her struggles or even Jamie's triumphs. It was about healing, rebuilding, and fostering unbreakable connections amid varying life challenges. With the weight of uncertainty lifted, she transitioned into this new chapter with solid confidence, one that illuminated the paths among them. She had conquered her inner turmoil, established clear communication, and solidified her role as not only a steadfast mother, but an empowered woman. As she closed her eyes that eager night, Lisa felt fulfilled. The cascading relationships forged through vulnerability became her legacy, the devotion of a mother intertwined with the wisdom of embracing the complexities of love and existence. She relished the moment, understanding that the journey of transformation was not just finished, it was continuously vibrant, alive with the promise of tomorrow. If you found this story moved you, you need to subscribe now to the channel to never miss out on exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these inspiring tales reach those who need them most. Comment your reactions and theories about this extraordinary ending, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let's continue to uplift and empower each other.